Yeah.
Welcome to the 10th episode of Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. I'm your man, Kyle Ayala.
Raul.
You got KJ over here. What's good, y'all?
What's good, guys? 10 episodes in, and it's crazy. Like, I can't believe we're on our 10th episode.
Double digits.
I remember we were kind of talking about, like, early in the year about starting the podcast. And, like, you know, we were kind of, like, also kind of slacking a little bit at first. But, I mean, look at us, bro. Like, 10 episodes in, you know, I get excited every time we're about to record, don't you?
Super excited, you know, especially with everything being a little bit postponed. This is what I've been looking forward to week by week.
Yeah, this is a nice distraction from Call of Duty Warzone, right?
Yeah.
Hit me up on PS4. Let me know.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least if anyone wants to listen to the podcast, while they're playing Warzone, that would be dope.
Oh yeah.
Or late at night, or you know, if you're on the train, whatever it is.
Yeah, you know.
Hear us out.
Yeah, you know, let this be an outlet to distract you with whatever's going on in your lives.
Yes, sir.
And, like, if you got baby mama drama, Honey Bunches of Goats. You got a shorty stressing you,
Honey Bunches
Honey
of
Bunches of
Goats.
Goats. You have nothing to do, Honey Bunches of Goats.
You are being quarantined.
Honey Bunches of Goats. You listen to another podcast? Fuck that podcast and listen to
Honey Bunches of Goats.
What up? Gang. But we have a lot to cover. I mean, first of all, we're going to go straight into it. The Charlo Brothers had an impressive weekend, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, man. They definitely showed the world and the boxing community that, you know what, they're for real in their divisions.
Yeah, I mean, and it's some real shit. I've been very critical of the Charlo Brothers over the past year, especially after lackluster performances. You know, they really showed a lot of growth in these fights. You know, even just at the end of fights, they were just normally they're very boisterous and very, like, you know, kind of like what up. You know, and that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But there was, like, I guess they were a little bit more congenial to their opponents. Well, at least with the Derevyanchenko fight. It seemed like there was a mutual respect that was fostered during that fight. You know, much like, you know, a lot of fighters, when they get into a real tough fight, you know, they eventually kind of like each other. You know, they respect each other at the end of the fight, which most boxers do, because it always takes courage to, you know, want to fight, get in a boxing ring and want to compete in this particular sport, right?
No, I agree. Yeah, and you know what? All that heat that they got in the previous past is kind of what they did to themselves. Because if you call yourselves lions only and you do a lot of talk, then people would assume and expect you to go in like a lion, like a warrior. So when you see certain results not going the way that you say it, then that comes with the community being barked at a lot. Yeah. So yeah, this weekend, like you said, a huge success, and let's break it down. Yeah. So
the first fight we have to cover, Jermall Charlo, 160 middleweight champion, versus Sergey Derevyanchenko, a rough and rugged, well-schooled European fighter from Ukraine. We saw, you know, it was a pretty good match. I think it was unanimous in how we all saw it, right? You would say that, you know, Jermall dominated the early portion of the fight, you know, really bothered Derevyanchenko with his power. And then Derevyanchenko kind of found his footing towards the middle rounds and started applying consistent pressure on, you know, Jermall, which is not something that he's normally used to, because his power always kind of keeps opponents at bay. And then there was a lot of, like, back and forth towards the championship rounds. And, I mean, a lot of those rounds could have gone either way, more so for Jermall Charlo. But it was really impressive how Jermall kind of, you know, calmed things down. Like, he never got, like, too wild, never got too out of his comfort zone, despite the pressure that Derevyanchenko was applying, right?
Yeah. So what I saw in this fight, first 5 rounds, Jermall Charlo was using the distance well, and also
jabbing. I mean,
yeah.
One thing about the Charlo brothers, they both have excellent jabs.
Yeah.
And this was very apparent in this fight.
No, yeah, agreed. And one thing that surprised me a lot is, obviously, Derevyanchenko is going to try to push you into the pocket and fight in the inside, but Jermall was making things a little hard those first 5 rounds and making him miss a lot. And that's where Jermall took advantage and countered him a lot with that jab and keeping him away from a distance. And wow, he really surprised me. And to my surprise, I thought his division, Triple G, would have had the strongest jab, and we saw Derevchenko actually apply much pressure to Triple G, and compared to Jermall was comfortable, super comfortable.
I think the main difference between in both Derevchenko's fights, when he fought Triple G had a hard time kind of keeping him at bay and controlling Derevchenko's pace with his very, rightfully so lauded jab. I think Jermall kind of had a better gauge of distance in this fight than Triple G did.
No, for sure.
I mean, it seemed like he was lining him up pretty well with his jab. The Charlo brothers have probably the most underrated jab in boxing, both of them.
No, I agreed. But you would think, with Triple G's strong jab, he would have kept Derevchenko at a distance. But it looks like past the 6th, I noticed Jermall maybe would have took a little bit of pressure on the pedal, which Derevchenko, you started to see a little switch.
Yeah, I think Derevchenko
switching his gear.
Yeah, he started adjusting to, once he felt Charlo's power, I think he started adjusting to the power and started taking advantage of Charlo's kind of like, he was getting a little tired.
Little gas,
towards the middle of the rounds. The middle rounds of the fight. And you saw Derevchenko started turning the tide a little bit, kind of creeping up on him, kind of like, working the pace, kind of going in and out, like being a little bit less predictable, going like just boring in. Yeah, Charlo was landing his jab consistently, but Derevchenko, I think at that point was like, okay, I felt your power, and now I'm going to try to get inside on you. Because, there was a drastic height difference. Derevchenko is 5'8", 5'9", I believe, and Jermall Charlo is like 6 foot 1, I believe. So right, he was starting to be a little bit. Derevchenko was being smarter in the pressure that he was applying, in addition to just adjusting to Charlo's power and starting to feel his jab. I think he was starting to feel out his jab a little bit more. So like he was like keeping just enough distance to stay out of the jab. So and then pushing Charlo to the ropes when he could.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's Derevchenko. It's one thing to test out his jab, but he was hurt plenty of times. But I think it might have to do with Charlo getting a little bit gassed out, and he worked his way into the pocket, which it affected in the long haul where Charlo. But again, he pulled it out towards the championship rounds, like you said, in which we agreed. They both kind of had like little exchanges in the pocket, which caused fireworks. But hey, I'm looking forward to see what's next for Charlo.
There was a couple of mentions about Jermall kind of like facing Canelo, Canelo at this point, or somebody like Jacobs or somebody like Triple G.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was reading an article and it's pretty interesting. Charlo, I'm sorry, no. So Jermall, like he has options now. He beat more convincingly Derevchenko than Jacobs or Triple G did, right? So maybe now he throws his name in that picture of top middleweights. I mean, yeah, he's always been a top middleweight, but he's, because everyone is at the zone at this point. All the best middleweights are at the zone. He's kind of was like the odd man out, but now, hopefully they can get these contracts aligned better at the zone, and then they can start making fights, cross promotions. Yeah. And I think Charlo is definitely a name, especially this type of win, a rugged but well-deserved win. He was tested by a known and very capable contender, and he passed his test. Essentially, he passed a hard test at the end of the day.
Agreed. And you know what? That comes with him having the benefit of decision making, of actually having his name up there with the rest of the big guys.
Yeah. Then we had the other side of the doubleheader. We had the other where Jermell at 154 took on Jeison Rosario for basically I think 3 of the 4 belts at 154 pounds, right?
Correct.
And that was a fight listen, it was a mismatch now in retrospect you see it, and it was kind of a mismatch, although there was times where Jeison Rosario looked like he was starting to kind of like do the things that he wanted to do. I think that knockdown in the first round kind of like knocked him off his game plan, kind of jumped back on the game plan, but Jermell's power just kept on stopping Jeison Rosario's in his tracks.
Yeah, he just rushed in on that first round. Usually you would think that it's a test round to test your distance, check your opponent's jab, or little things that you want to read early on. But no, Jermell went in and he rushed in with those hooks, man, and clipped him.
Yeah, he was very precise in his, I think, in his punches and his accuracy, which was something that we kind of like. He didn't show too well in the Harrison fights. I think Harrison was kind of like outworking him, out jabbing him, and kind of like making Mel look a little bit, just like kind of chasing him, like looking for the knockout rather than just boxing. And I think here he let the power come out by him boxing. All he had to do was set up his power punches, and which he did. Even though like Rosario had a little bit of his moments as well, and I think it was like second round and third round, like you can go back and forth between who won, but at the end of the day, the Charlo's power shows a lot, and. The knockout was really funny. A lot of people were just actually caught off guard by the knockout. They thought a lot of people were mentioning like,
to the body, right?
Yeah, it was a jab to the body, and a lot of people online were saying like, oh yeah, this is a dive. This is a dive. Mm-hmm. And if you just take a look at all the aspects, if that was the case, then if this was a dive, then he could have been the knockdown in the first round. He could have used as an example. Then on top of that, he didn't have to fight as hard as if he was trying to throw the fight, then he wouldn't have tried to win those rounds. Some of those rounds after the first round knockdown, he wouldn't have won those rounds.
It looks crazy though.
I mean, look,
it just looks very awkward. Yeah.
I mean, there's two strong arguments that you could stay here. One is we've seen in the past fighters get knocked out with a jab to the body. Two, if you ever gotten hit with a strong jab to the body, you will either want to throw up or get knocked out.
Yeah, a lot of people never actually been punched to the body. So as somebody who's been like had the wind knocked out of me, what happens is when you get punched to the body, especially in one of the major organs like your liver or your kidney, what the body does is it automatically goes into shutdown mode because the organ has just experienced trauma, a blunt force trauma. And electrical signals that send from that organ to your brain automatically tells the brain then tells the body shut down because now you're in survival mode because
you stiff jab.
And so a lot of people don't realize when you do get hit to the body, it's not you're fine in your head. You want to get up. It's your body that's like no. Like I've had the wind knocked out of me too. It's like. You feel like
I got in a hook and a jab to the body where I feel my legs trembling, and you feel a little bit of that shock too. Go up,
like because your head is fine. Your head is fine, but like your body kind of like wilts a little bit. You're like
no, yeah, and look, in the end of the day, it's not surprising that these guys have power because they always had it. So for him to get knocked out with a jab to the body, I'm not surprised. Am I not surprised that they won the fight and they ended up making a statement? No, and I think we could agree is that this made us a believer.
Yeah,
and it should make whoever watched the fight that night, I'm pretty sure it made them a believer too.
Yeah, I was very. I was very critical of both Charlo brothers after the fights that I saw. I guess, and with Jermall Charlo, his defense against Matt Korobov, which he barely won, even though Korobov really, was looking really good. And then the Harrison fights against, with Jermall. Where Jermell, he lost the first fight, controversially so. A lot of people thought that he won. But you can't argue that Tony Harrison was extremely effective, despite being, I would say, talent-wise, an inferior fighter, right? So now they both have impressive wins. Jermell is now the champion for 3 sanctioning bodies. He's the WBC, the WBA, and the IBF. There's been a lot of mentions about fighting, Hurd, Lara, all that stuff, and that's all good. But why not? And I saw this in an article. Why not go for the WBO title and go for the undisputed championship against Patrick Teixeira?
Yeah.
I think it's not a fight that is impossible to make, and considering that this kind of wave that the Charlo brothers are on, I think finally they're kind of building their names to be within that pay-per-view realm of the big names. This was a pay-per-view. It was a double feature pay-per-view, which I think is, despite it being $70, which I think was too much, at least you have two major fights going on.
Yeah, so two things to add on to what you were saying, Kyle. One is Teixeira, he signed under Golden Boy Promotions, and I'm not mistaken. Brazilian fighter. I think it's going to benefit both companies. Let's make this fight happen. There's one side, a guy with 3 of the biggest belts, and you have on the other side of the court, you have another one with 1 belt. Let's do it, guys. We all want to see it. 2, doubleheader pay-per-view for $70. Plus, keep in mind, guys,
there was a lot of fights, though. I will say there was
there was great fights. I loved it. I
think John Rio Casimiro was on the undercard as well.
Yeah. So you had Luis Neri, you had
that was
Figueroa.
An awful fight. I don't even want to talk about that fight. That was a bad fight.
And Luis Neri, I seen him fight before live, and he always shows up to throw slugs, haymakers, hooks. But it's just credit to his opponent. But going back to what I was saying, you were going up against NBA playoffs that night. You had UFC as well. Do I think they could have maybe showed this fight on a different weekend? Yes, especially for $70. Maybe. You want people to generate as much money, especially if you're going up against the UFC. I think maybe Premier Boxing should have changed their date.
I mean, you could have said that, but I think for a pay-per-view, for the first pay-per-view, that I think their first pay-per-view, PBC, I think they did a pretty good job.
Great job.
I maybe, scheduling-wise, but you know what? Everyone is kind of – this is a very condensed schedule. There's so many things going on because now all the sports were kind of pushed back to the fall because of Corona.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I put aside basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Everything else I had
to watch these fights,
it was fight night for me. But if you have people that kind of like boxing but prefer basketball and UFC, I don't think that pay-per-view would have benefit from these casual fans in a way.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Listen, end of the day, who do you want to see? Jermall at 160. Who do you want to see him fight next? Off the top of your head, quick.
Daniel Jacobs. They had kind of like a feud and a beef going on in Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. Every time they bumped into each other, they always had words to say, and we've seen this in videos. So it just makes sense.
It'll be a good fight.
Yeah,
I would see. Yeah, I would say for me, if I want to see Jermall, I want to see him fight either. I know he can't get a fight with Canelo or Triple G. I know that's not feasible, especially with the third fight just around the corner. I would like to see him either fight Danny Jacobs or Billy Joe Saunders if Billy Joe's interested in going back down to 160. What about for Jermell? Who would you want to see him? I want to see him fight Patrick Teixeira for the undisputed title. I don't think it's going to be a particularly close fight, but I just want to see. Hey, it's always nice to have undisputed champions, right?
Yeah.
So wouldn't mind seeing that. What about you? What would you?
Yeah. If you're gonna quote unquote take over the division, why not unify all the belts in that division? We've seen it at 140. Why not? Let's see at 154.
Yeah, that would be pretty dope, especially with all these fucking belts like lying around. Everyone seems like everyone's a champion, but no one is an undisputed or a lineal champion. So it's nice to see, like, if there's an opportunity to have the undisputed champion, let's fucking do it. Let's do it.
Hell yeah.
As for champions, there was also Josh Taylor was in action today. I mean, on this past weekend, he wasn't in action for long, because he got a first round knockout with a body shot. I don't think we have to follow up on the fight because it was just a mismatch of epic proportions. But let's talk about the challenger, Kong Song.
Who?
Exactly. Why was he the man? So the IBF made him the mandatory challenger for Josh Taylor, and top rank CEO Bob Arum was very critical at the end of the fight, because he's like, yo, we have to put up all the money to set up these events, and now we have this random guy who doesn't deserve. Raul, you were looking him up. What was he ranked?
To be honest with you, I didn't look him up, but I wouldn't be surprised if I saw him at 53.
Oh, I mean,
80.
he's somebody that we've never heard at 140. But yeah, so Josh Taylor, easy win. For undeserving opponent. I'll applaud the IBF for not having so many goddamn champions like the WBA, but what are these are weak ass mandatories, right?
Yeah.
So and then I hate how these sanctioning bodies use like stripping the belt as a weapon against these boxers. Like, oh, you have to fight these fighters, or else and it's stupid. But hey, Josh Taylor is now, he passed his little test it was, his little tune-up fight, and now we hopefully can expect a unification match where Jose Ramirez, who was coming off a hard win off of Victor Postol. So that's gonna that's one good news right there.
And I could see the arguments, and I could see people saying, hey, yeah, you know what, Josh Taylor fought Victor Postol and look better, yada yada. But in the end of the day, if Ramirez fought quote unquote tuna fight with somebody as competitive as Victor Postol, then to the contrary, maybe try to have a quote unquote tuna fight with somebody as equivalent to Victor Postol and make a stronger argument and case for yourself. So when you come up to the build up and the pre-fight with Ramirez, then on the fan side, you're a little bit more confident.
Yeah. A couple of fights also that were on we had Jean-Riel Casimiro versus Duke Micah. Really just a he's the WBO bantamweight champion, Jean-Riel Casimiro, and now he set himself up. Originally, there were him and Monster Inoue were supposed to fight. Inoue being one of the pound for pound top 5. And they were supposed to fight earlier this year. Now they got canceled. Jean-Riel Casimiro wins, and he wins in dominating fashion. A very action-packed fighter. He's gonna fight, and then hopefully him and Inoue, that makes a great fight. Casimiro's Filipino, so I'm gonna be a little biased, but Inoue, I love Inoue because I just like his, he reminds me of like Pacquiao, very nice. He fights like a demon, but he's a very nice guy.
A lot of respect.
Yeah, so Casimiro destroyed him. We also had Brandon Figueroa, brother of former titleist Omar Figueroa. He basically wore down Damian Vasquez.
Yeah. Great fight, though. I enjoyed the shit out of this fight.
The Figueroa brothers they like to mix it up. They love to they're
brawlers.
They're brawlers. Mexican brawlers at heart at the end of the day. But I just don't want him to see you go down that path that his brother went through, where he just can be outclassed. Like when his brother Omar fought what's that Cuban cat's name at 140? I just forgot his name just now.
When Omar fought in 140 with the Cuban.
Oh man, I'm blanking out. But
yeah, so am I.
Brandon Figueroa, he's the WBA regular champion.
WBA,
he's the regular champion. So he's not the real champion, but he's
quote
just
unquote,
under there. Yeah, I know. It makes no sense.
But yeah, this fight, towards the first early rounds, they were just both exchanging blows. But like you said, he just wore them down. Towards the later rounds, he was beat up. Vasquez he couldn't take it anymore, and it got to the point where they had to stop the fight.
Yeah, listen, 122, 126. Those are really, like, I won't say hot divisions, but deep divisions.
Hell yeah.
Over Navarrete, I think he moved up to 126. So I mean, let's see who can be the man at 122. That'd be interesting.
El Vaquero Navarrete.
Yeah,
my cousin.
Vaquero. Yeah, your cousin.
And Manuel.
Vaquero.
Also, in another good fight, we had Danny Roman beating Juan Carlos Payano. Some people thought Payano did enough to win. They said a lot of people said it was close. But Roman, I saw some of the fight. Payano really brought it. And a lot of people online were saying like, man, he's really getting in there, And but I mean, Roman, he got the win. Even though Payano landed more than 100 punches on him.
It was a very close fight.
Yeah, it was really interesting. This is one of those fights it's interesting to see how scoring is,
Yeah, Payano, we all know his resume is pretty loaded. He's very experienced.
Yeah.
Especially for his age.
Yeah.
He was going total.
How old is he? He looks pretty old.
Yeah, I think, let's look.
Payano.
I'll look it up a little bit later, but
Dominican cat.
no, is he?
No, he looks Asian.
No.
Payano's not Asian.
Let's see. We're gonna look.
Check these fact sheet. Fact check.
He might be Dominican.
Fact check.
No, he is Dominican.
He's Dominican, guys.
Yeah,
He
is
looks
Dominican.
Asian, bro.
No, well, he looks a Dominican from El Campo. With no disrespect, I say this with so
we
much.
love the El Campo.
Yeah,
de
with so much
Moyacano.
love.
Yeah,
With
he's
so much love.
36 years old, but
Ya tú sabes.
he fought. I remember. Yeah, he got knocked out by Luis Neri in his last fight. So yeah,
But he did not fight the way he fought Luis Neri in this fight.
No. He was definitely he was putting pressure, good pressure on Danny Roman, who's also a good fighter in himself.
Yeah,
So
great. But he didn't look the usual.
Yeah, nah, it definitely didn't.
And I think for the most part, there was only 2 fights that felt that fighters in this fight, for example, like Luis Neri, which we're gonna get to afterwards, it didn't fight.
Dude, we don't have to cover the Luis
No.
Neri fight. It was so bad.
I'm
bro.
such a Luis Neri fan.
I know, but it was not a good fight. It
Yeah.
was not entertaining whatsoever.
I saw all 12 rounds. I was just hoping, yes, Luis Neri, I want to see you throw. And towards like the later championship rounds, he was. But at that point, it's like, I wanted you to throw that before. But again, you know what? The positive in this, he showed more of his boxing style, which you never do see. So, in a way, he benefited in this way.
Yeah, it's true. That is true. But it was a nice night of boxing. It was great. And a lot of those fights were entertaining, for the most part. So, hey, hopefully we can see more stacked pay-per-views in the future, because I think we've gotten so used to just having one major fight and the rest have been kind of usually undercard fights have been kind of trash.
Hell yeah!
But now I guess they have to be a little more creative in making these pay-per-view cards, especially with coronavirus.
So let me ask you a question: what will you grade this fight card? The whole night. What will you grade it?
I would give it A minus.
A minus?
A minus, B plus, I would say. I'll give it a little bit extra considering that it was, during coronavirus, and this is just making a fight card is so hard nowadays, especially with you're not going to get any gate revenue because you can't have crowds, and you're only relying primarily on pay-per-view views, and buys to make some money. So considering all these external factors, definitely I'm going to give them like an A minus, B plus type of thing. What about you?
I'll give it a very solid A.
That's good. Both Charlo's fights were entertaining, so
Hell yeah.
That's a good thing.
Those 2 fights made my night.
I think the one thing I would say that I would give it a negative is that the weight between. I didn't know. I thought they were gonna have both Charlo fights back to back, but it was really the first Charlo fight with Derevchenko, and then you had to wait, and then fight Rosario Charlo.
And
fight.
KJ, you saw a couple of the fights, right?
Oh yeah. I mean,
What would you grade the night?
my favorite fight of the night was probably the Jermall Charlo fight. It was a brawl from how I saw it
With
with
Derevchenko.
Derevchenko.
Yeah.
I was really impressed of how Derevchenko fought and how aggressive he was.
And how he
towards the later rounds.
Yeah,
and
and
he's like he's no bullshit type of guy.
Nah,
you can
he's
tell.
like, yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna get down and busy to fight.
So much so that you saw Jermall kind of like give him respect, and Jermall's very boisterous at the end of the fights, especially when it's like especially when he knows that it's kind of like a big deal for him, and he looked really good. But after the end of the fight, he was like, "Listen, good looks, man." He was like, "Yo, I think he Derevchenko got Charlo's respect."
Big ups to the sportsmanship with Charlo. In
Yeah.
the end, he is just it shows more character in him that we normally don't see.
Yeah, we usually see that little bit more aggressive side. But anyways, hey, let's slide into NFL news, bro.
Let's get it.
We had a lot of
Let's
action.
turn up.
We had a lot of action, and last week we covered the Dolphins Jaguars game because we were recording on Thursday night, so we don't have to cover that Fitzpatrick all day. But we can go into the Sunday and Monday results. I'm gonna go one by one. We're gonna break it down. All right. So we have the game.
First game.
Falcons. The Chicago versus Atlanta. The Falcons blow another 15-plus point lead in the fourth quarter. Only team to blow back-to-back games with a 14 or 15-point lead.
They lost. Collapse of the Falcons, man.
They lost 30-26. Good God. What is going on with the Falcons, bro?
Nick Foles took over in what quarter?
He took over, I think, in the second half.
3 touchdowns.
And he threw an interception on his first drive. So that didn't bode well. And then what does he do? Nick Foles does Nick Foles shit. Comes in, he's the backup quarterback, comes in, and he'll light it up. And that's what he's been known for his career to do. Light it up whenever he's called into action as a backup quarterback.
It would suck for a better if you're betting for Atlanta with money in the line, because
think of all
how much stress and like drinking you got to do to watch these games.
I remember we all said the Bears. I think we all did. We all
The
say,
Bears.
no. I think we said the Falcons were going to win. But you know what? That's what we get for believing in Matt Ryan and in Dan Quinn. So Falcons lose 30-26, blowing another 15-point lead in the fourth quarter.
Terrible.
We had maybe game of the week. You can argue Bills versus Rams. In Buffalo, the Bills came away with the win 35-32. Josh Allen is still lighting it up.
Wow. 4 TDs.
So, Kyle, are you now a believer of Josh Allen? Because I think we had this argument and this discussion before.
Listen.
And you said, no, you'll see.
Okay, you know what? Kiss my ass, all right? I can't say. Okay, but you know what? Josh Allen is playing very well. He had another four touchdowns. So now
he's
that's
putting up MVP numbers.
That's 8 touchdowns in 2 games, in the last 2 games. He put 4 touchdowns against the Miami. And
Mermaids.
And you went 20. He went 24 for 33, 311 yards, 1 interception. We can argue. Listen, he's playing well, no doubt about it. Can he sustain this? Maybe not. But as of right now, he's playing as an MVP candidate right now. So can't really argue with that. Jared Goff played okay. He's trying to bring a career resurgence. It was a great game. LA is still trying to work out the kinks from last year. They lost. Although I will say they got fucked up because they were called for pass interference, which was really a bullshit call that Buffalo ended up using to get the lead at the end of the game. So we'll say that that was definitely a bullshit call, that pass interference. But Josh Allen, another win. Buffalo is 3-0 and the leaders of the AFC East at this point right now. So. There you go. In the next game, we had the Browns beating Washington 34-20
Browns
in Cleveland.
Yeah, boy.
Why do I have the feeling of going to the bathroom to take a number 2 now?
Oh God, Jesus Christ!
I mean, look, man.
It's not like OBJ played well. So
he did play well.
You hear that, King?
He had 60. He had less than 60 yards receiving.
Baker Mayfield didn't play as well as
he played
should,
okay.
But he still got the win.
Baker went 16 for 23, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns.
No interceptions.
I would say it was more Dwayne Haskins'
man.
fault that they lost his game. He threw 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions.
He played pretty well though. Watching the game, he played pretty good. It's just he couldn't turn it up at the end.
Yeah, I mean the jury's still out on Dwayne Haskins, Baker Mayfield as well. But Cleveland is up 2-1. Considering that they haven't really looked all that great, to be up 2-1 and the only game that you lost was to the juggernaut Ravens. I think it bodes pretty well.
It's the combination between Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Because I feel as though Nick Chubb is one of the
Chubb
best
went
running
over.
backs in the league.
Chubb went over 102 touchdowns, so it says a lot. There you go. Next game we had the Titans and Vikings. Great game.
Why do I feel sick? I gotta put my mask on.
We're gonna follow up a little bit later on that,
That's a fact.
but the Titans came away with the win. They're currently 3-0, 31-30. Tannehill played decent, had 1 interception though, unfortunately, no touchdowns. Kirk Cousins kind of came back. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions although. To add to that, Dalvin Cook, one of the best running backs in the league, 181 yards rushing, 1 touchdown. And the rookie from Minnesota, Justin Jefferson, I forgot his first name, but man, he's their rookie and 175 yards receiving, 7 receptions, 1 touchdown. excellent game. Hopefully we see a lot of him in the future. But Tennessee Titans, hey, 3-0, and keeping it rolling from last year. We had the Patriots beating the Raiders in New England.
I would have won the bet if this game was me, because I picked the Patriots to win.
Well, it was 36-20. So, Sony Michel, he had a pretty good game. He had 9 carries for 117 yards. Sony Michel for the Patriots. I think he got injured though. I think, but the Raiders. I guess they lost this game. Considering where they are, you think they would do worse, but they're 2-1. They lost to the Patriots. Cam Newton career resurgence. Kind of really buying into this Bill Belichick team, and his numbers don't look so pretty. 17, 28, 162 yards, touchdown, interception. But I think it's the dimension of him running. Is that added layer of dimension. And Bill Belichick, he loves multi-layered talent. Guys who can do multiple things on a football field. And definitely Cam Newton is one of those guys. I think he's doing the good job of not putting too much on Cam Newton's hands right now. Just letting him play to win rather than trying to just, go all out. And I think that's excellent for Cam Newton. But hey, New England's 2-1, so are the Raiders. They're both in the thick of things, and it was a decent game. But the one thing you can say is, hey, Cam Newton is back, and Cam Newton is playing relatively well. Oh God,
we don't have to talk much about this game.
49ers with their B team and some of their C team. So the 48ers beat the Giants 36-9. Man, the Giants definitely need Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, and you know what? It's good to know that at least the Jets are not the worst team in the NFL in New York.
So the Giants, again, without Saquon Barkley, look like lifeless. And Daniel Jones was the leading rusher for the Giants, 5 carries, 49 yards. But, when Nick Mullins throws up 343 yards and a touchdown against you.
Your backup.
Yeah, good God. We don't have to cover it much. But, listen, Giants are just probably in the same boat as the Jets right now, probably as some of the worst teams in the NFL. We had our first tie of the year, Bengals versus Eagles, 23-23. The Eagles were doing everything to lose this game. Carson Wentz was not playing well until I think fourth quarter started, and he started playing, winning time. He had that rushing touchdown to tie it up. Made it to overtime, and it seemed like no team could kind of like go for the gusto in overtime. So shows a lot about where both teams are 0-2-1. So they're both winless, and they have a tie each. Not a record that you want, but at least for the Bengals, they're a rebuilding team with a rookie quarterback. Good. The Eagles, on the other hand, are
like
2 years removed from a Super Bowl win.
That's crazy to hear.
Yeah, and Carson Wentz is trying to prove that he's still he was still an MVP level player like he was in that year that they went to Super Bowl before he got injured. You could see he's pressing a lot.
Jalen Hurts got some burn.
Yeah,
that game.
Yeah. But
a couple of carries.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, this year is about whether Carson Wentz is the guy anymore or not. And that's going to be really important. And to the start that they're going, it's better than being 0-3, but 0-2-1 is definitely not where you want to be. You had the Texans versus Steelers in Pittsburgh. Steelers won 28-21. Deshaun Watson played relatively well, but I think that there's just a lack of talent on this Texans team that isn't complimenting Deshaun Watson. Shows a lot about how Bill O'Brien has kind of built this team. And a playoff team last year, and now they're 0-3 in the division, and they're 0-3 with the overall record, as opposed to the Steelers 3-0. James Conner, the much maligned James Conner,
another 100-yard game.
He had a 100-yard game, a touchdown, and the Steelers, they're 3-0. Are they firing at all cylinders? All cylinders? Not at all. But one thing you can say about the Steelers, their front seven is beastly, bro. Those guys can get to the quarterback. Those guys can create pressure, and kind of clog up the running lanes as well. They can do both things.
That's year in and year out for that Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah,
defense.
but I think this is a little bit different, especially with with the players that they've drafted the past couple of years.
Yeah, and you know what? As long as Juju goes and does his celebration touchdowns,
Touchdown dances.
There we go. There you go. The next game, this is gonna hurt Raul.
Shit.
There's not much to talk about this one.
Yeah,
I'll pass on this. I'll go take a bathroom break. Guys.
Colts won 36-7. The Jets look listless. Darnold listless, and Darnold threw two pick sixes, 3 interceptions in total. Man, talk about breaking a player. I think.
Wait. I do have something to say, guys.
Oh, here we go.
Fire Gase.
Well, I mean, that's something I would have told you last year, but I think
no. I think you said, you know what? He wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
He's not that bad.
No, I fucking hated.
I think you said
Kyle's
that.
fronting right now.
No. I
Yeah,
fucking hated.
Kyle
Adam
was
Gase.
being a little bit
Nah.
optimistic. Maybe it's just
I was
him
being optimistic for you, but definitely never on those.
Maybe he was doing this on the low just to say, you know
Low
what?
key.
Adam Gase is not.
Good
an
luck
offense.
with our trash, but
Yeah,
I
he
don't
was.
know.
I don't know why the fuck you guys hired him, but I guess no one else wanted to coach the Jets. Well, I listen. When the Johnsons took over this team, there's been a lot of inconsistency, that's for sure. But hey, the Jets are going to be jetting. So they didn't lose that bad yesterday against Denver.
No, I don't want to talk about that either.
In their next game, the Panthers came away with their first win of the season against the San Diego Chargers. Justin Herbert played relatively well again, 35 for 49, 330 yards, a touchdown, and he's the future of this team. Unfortunately, under shitty circumstances for Tyrod Taylor, because as we were speaking about last week, he had his lung punctured by the team doctor. What the fuck is that all about, right? But I mean, hey, and Teddy Bridgewater, he got his first win as the starter for the Carolina Panthers.
If you weren't scared of needles or punctures, I think after that will make anybody scared.
Well, one thing's for sure to watch: Justin Herbert to Keenan Allen.
Yeah, Keenan Allen had a superb game.
Yeah.
13 receptions, 132 receiving yards, and a touchdown. 10.2 average per yard per catch. So that's my guy right there.
I'm very surprised about how many attempts Herbert has been thrown. Usually a rookie quarterback, they kind of rein it in, but already last week and this week, he had a lot of passing attempts for each game. So I mean, hey, it seems like they want to build on that, and let's see where it goes. We had the Buccaneers beating the Broncos 28-10.
Goat.
I mean, Broncos were of course without starter Drew Lock. Tom Brady did Tom Brady things. He had 3 touchdowns. I would say his first real great game in a Buccaneers uniform, as opposed to like 2 so-so games in the first 2 weeks. So hey, Tom Brady, the 2-1, Buccaneers 2-1. Let's see where it goes. Let's see if Tom Brady starts getting hot. The next game we had the Lions, surprisingly,
the surprise of the week.
Yeah, you can argue upset of the week. Beat the Cardinals in Arizona, 26-23. Kyler Murray, I would say he had a. I won't say he had a bad game, but he did throw. He did throw 3 interceptions. I mean, he went 23 for 35, 270 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he did throw 3 interceptions. I was surprised when I saw that. I guess it goes to show you, anything can happen on Sunday. And the Lions aren't necessarily a bad team. Inconsistent, yes. Bad, no. Then we had our next game, the Seahawks versus the Cowboys in Seattle, 38-31. Seahawks win.
What a game.
Yo, man.
That was a great game.
Let's just be real. Russell Wilson is the leading
MVP candidate.
I would say even over Mahomes. At least with Mahomes, we kind of like know what Mahomes is going to do regardless, right? But every game, and he had kind of like a weak game last week. But listen, Russell Wilson has been the guy for Seattle. They don't really have weapons like that.
He's been the guy for the past 3 years for them. I mean, obviously prior to that,
last
Super Bowl winner,
Yeah.
Great seasons with them, but he's just stepping up to a whole different level now.
I think most people think he's a great quarterback, but when you say like elite, like top 3, most people don't have, like most like casuals don't have him there. But most football insiders have Russell Wilson as if not the best quarterback in the league, the second best quarterback in the league. Maybe only because Patrick Mahomes is so physically talented. But let's not forget Russell Wilson, man. He can fucking ball too. Even though he's short, he can create plays. He can extend, and anything you need him to do, he can do it. 5 touchdowns against the Cowboys. Leading 14 touchdowns in 3 weeks.
And he plays Miami next week, so Miami's asked out.
Oh, let's not talk about that yet. So whatever. Okay, but anyways, Cowboys. Dak Prescott looked pretty good. 472 yards, 3 touchdowns, but maybe a little bit too late. Too late. DK Metcalf continuing his strong rookie season this year.
No, second year, bro.
No, I mean continuing from his strong rookie season last year.
Okay.
Yeah. Then we had the Packers versus the Saints. Packers won 37-30. The Saints are surprising. They've had a rough couple of weeks. Even with Drew Brees going for 288 yards and 3 touchdowns, it goes to show you, man, the Saints really, even though Brees is playing okay, they really miss Michael Thomas like badly. It's very noticeable, and he's out again this week, so there'll be another week that without him. We'll see how it goes. Aaron Rodgers threw 3 touchdowns as well. They're very similar numbers, both of them. Yes, in that game, Rodgers went for 283, 3 touchdowns. Brees went for 288, 3 touchdowns.
Monday night.
Yeah, we'll see where things go. Kamara had a big night, 13 receptions, 139 yards receiving, and Lazard for the Green Bay Packers, who I don't even know, went for 6 receptions, 146 yards, and a touchdown. So, high offensive score. I guess a matchup that we thought was going to be a little bit better. But, again, Saints without Michael Thomas, and it shows for sure that they need him. They're 1-2 in the division, while the Packers are 3-0 and back on the Aaron Rodgers train. And in the Monday night, I think a game that everyone else was looking forward to, Chiefs versus Ravens in Baltimore. I guess we can say that definitely Baltimore severely underperformed in what would be probably the AFC Championship. Some people would say. Some people were expecting that last year. Baltimore failed to beat Tennessee in the AFC, in the divisionals. So, real quick, what do you think is wrong with Lamar Jackson sometimes when they need him? They always usually have the lead, and when they're down by a lot, it seems like Lamar Jackson has a really hard time kind of like dominating the game he normally does when he's up by a lot.
Yeah, that's what with all running quarterbacks, they always have that issue in the sense of just I guess reading the defense or whatever, the coverage, whatever defense.
Hey, listen, so Pat Mahomes did Pat Mahomes things. He went for 385 and 4 touchdowns. Now, Lamar Jackson went 15 for 28, 97 passing yards, and only 1 touchdown. He had a couple of drops. There was a couple of people I saw, they dropped a lot of passes, but Lamar Jackson definitely was not consistent in that game. And it shows, hey, listen, when you throw the ball almost 30 times and only get less than 100 yards passing, that's a putrid yards per attempt. I think that's
inexcusable.
That's like less than 4 yards per attempt, which is terrible.
3.5.
Yeah, so it's terrible. So it goes to show you Lamar Jackson has a hard time, coming back. At least with Pat Mahomes, we know even if the Chiefs are down, you got Pat Mahomes.
Throw that ball.
But when the Baltimore's down big, then it's like, oh, what's Jackson gonna do? Because we don't know if he can play when they don't have the lead. We don't know that. So there's a lot of questions for Lamar Jackson for the reigning MVP. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, that covers it. That covers the week 3. Now
week 4 predictions.
Let's go with our predictions, guys. So I'm gonna run them down rapid fire. Let's go. We already know what happened Thursday night. Denver beat in New York.
Yesterday.
Let's not talk too much about that.
Yeah, we don't. At least then they get blown out. They lost by 11.
They didn't get blown out.
9.
That's a fact.
So that's not too bad. But anyways, Indianapolis versus at Chicago.
Bears.
Indy.
The Bears.
I'm gonna go with Indy. I'm gonna go with Indy. But hey, Nick Foles is back in the starting quarterback position, so let's see if he has a magical run like he did in Philly. Jacksonville at Cincinnati.
Cincy. First win of the season for them.
Wow.
I'll take Cincy as well.
You know what? I believe in Gardner Minshew. I think he's gonna go 2-2 with Jacksonville. So I think Jacksonville's gonna win this game. Next game, Cleveland at Dallas.
Let's go, baby.
Dallas.
Nah, hell no. Browns all day, baby. Let's go.
I'm gonna go with Dallas, and I think they might win big. They're playing in Dallas, so I think they're gonna win big.
It might be the game of the week.
Could be. New Orleans at Detroit.
I'll pick New Orleans.
I'm going with New
after
Orleans
last
too.
week's
Yeah.
loss, they're gonna have to definitely win that.
You can't go against Drew Brees right now.
Okay, so we have a sweep.
Oh
New Orleans
shit!
all the
Next
way.
game.
Ah, shit.
Next
You
game,
tight,
Seattle
Kyle.
at Miami. No, because I know Miami's gonna win. I'm gonna pick Miami.
Nah, hell no.
Oh.
Russell Wilson.
Talk
I'm
about
predicting Russell
being
Wilson is
overconfident
gonna
with
have
the biasness.
15 touchdowns on Sunday.
You know what?
I believe in Fitzmagic, and nothing will change my mind. Not even logic.
Chargers Buccaneers.
Seattle's gonna have their best game of the schedule. I'll tell you that.
That's a
All
They're
right.
gonna be running laps.
So LA Chargers at Tampa Bay.
taking Tom Brady in the Bucks.
I'm taking
Wow.
Tampa Bay.
I'm gonna go against you guys.
Oh, you think
Chargers,
Justin
huh?
Herbert's gonna get the first win?
Why
Get the first
not?
win? Okay, all right, we'll see. That's might be his upset special of the week right there.
No way.
We have Baltimore at Washington. Easy, Baltimore.
Taking the Ravens.
Ravens.
There we go. Arizona at Carolina.
Cardinals. I'm picking Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray's gonna have a bounce back
DeAndre
game.
Hopkins.
Arizona.
Okay. Minnesota at Houston.
What's a tough one?
The way Houston with the rhythm.
I can't even-
Minnesota.
They're both very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Both
Can't
very
even decide right now.
I'm gonna go with Deshaun Watson taking over the game and winning late.
It's a do or die for them. Basically,
Definitely.
they need to
Yeah.
win this one.
So
For
who do you
both
so who do you
teams.
have?
You know, with the pressure against them, I'm gonna get Houston.
Okay. All right. So you're going with
taking
Deshaun
the
Watson?
Texans.
Okay. Hey, we all agree that Deshaun Watson's going to get his first win of the season. We have New York Giants at L.A. Chargers. L.A.
Nah, Chargers.
Yeah.
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 Oh, this is gonna be the game of the week.
Ooh, New
Yeah.
England at Kansas City.
Cam versus Patrick.
This is going to be good. This is the past versus the future in a way. Even though they're not separated by much. I mean, yeah, well, now they are separated by a certain age difference. But I think KC is going to beat New England. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a close fucking game. What about you guys?
Taking the Chiefs.
I don't think it's gonna be that close as people think.
I never count out Bill Belichick. So
Yeah, Cam's gonna have to have a outstanding game to turn this over for them.
Yeah, and Kansas City's defense hasn't been great. Their front seven is really good, but they definitely have problems in the secondary. If they can't contain Cam, he can offer a lot of problems. So there you go. Buffalo at Las Vegas.
Buffalo.
I
Josh Allen is
fucking
gonna
hate
turn up.
Buffalo, but I'm gonna have to pick
Nah, I'm
them.
taking the Raiders.
Okay, Derek Carr in a bounce back
Wait,
game.
you're gonna take the Raiders?
Mhm.
All right.
I don't like the
Oh.
Bills.
Okay, all right, we'll
Oh,
see.
you're not a believer then.
Nah, I mean I'm a believer of Josh Allen. I just feel as though the team that I prefer
You know
to win
what?
would be the Raiders.
I have a good feeling Buffalo has a lot to surprise down the
This year?
postseason. Yeah.
So, okay. And the next game, we have Philly at San Fran. Now, this is tricky. Philly struggling.
Oh,
San
shit.
Fran, they have a B squad. I think Carson Wentz gets his first win in the season. I think he has a bounce back game, especially against an injured 49ers team.
It's a game I want to watch.
Yeah, if Philly loses against this team, I don't see them doing anything past this game.
Hey, if Philly struggles this year, they might put pressure on Doug Peterson. I don't think they'll fire him, but maybe if he looks that bad
Yeah,
this year.
I think coaching has been terrible for the Eagles this year. If you could tell.
See where it goes. And for the Monday night matchup, we have Atlanta at Green Bay.
The Packers.
Packers.
I have a feeling Atlanta's gonna be up by a lot, and then all of a sudden Green Bay's just gonna take the lead over, and they're
Shit
gonna
the
lose.
bed. Atlanta shit.
Yeah.
And let's put it like this:
Like
Atlanta
usual.
shitting the bed in the fourth quarter is the most solid bet you can make in sports betting right now. So there you go.
Fuck.
And unfortunately,
Why is there two teams with buys?
that's gonna lead us into the next
I
thing that
wonder
we're gonna
why.
cover. Tennessee at Pittsburgh has been postponed. So as some of you people may have already heard, Tennessee they have been hit with the coronavirus. So far, I believe 7 players and 9 staff have tested positive. For precautionary reasons, the Minnesota Vikings took tests, and none of them came positive. So that's one good thing.
Thanks God.
However, the Titans are now dealing with a real world issue that affected a couple of teams in baseball earlier this year. The game was postponed. So they were thinking about pushing it back a day or two. Now it's been postponed indefinitely, considering the new. Because they had 2 more positive tests as the most recent round of testing that they had. So, guys, coronavirus affecting NFL for the first time. What's your opinion on it?
It sucks, because if we want a season, especially if you are a Titans fan or a Pittsburgh fan, this gets in between, your Sunday, something you look forward to throughout the week. Again, something that obviously doesn't get to the public's eyes and news outlets. It's how did one get contacted with corona? How did it become? We don't know this. This information is not in the public. I don't know if the organizations themselves know the trace back all the way to who got it and how did it spread. But again, this just goes to show you how our organization plus a business has to be on top of regulations and rules set, because it's the first case of this in the NFL. But man, this is it's a little scary in a way.
Yeah, and in baseball, postponing a game and then planning for the future, for it to happen in the future is not that big of a deal. However, in football, where everything, especially schedule-wise, is so structured, it's going to be really, any postponement can push back a season and then hold back other teams. We have to keep that in mind. And not every team has a bye week, not every team has the same bye week. So, I don't know if they have the same bye. I don't think so. But just, it's a scheduling nightmare especially when coronavirus hits the NFL. But MLB, They got through their outbreaks relatively fine, and now they're in the MLB playoffs now, which we're going to cover next. But it is one of those issues that we have to deal with now, and like you said, Raul, this is the reason why the protocols are in place to prevent an outbreak like this. So now this is the NFL's first real test, coronavirus related. Let's see how it goes. Pittsburgh right now, unfortunately, is in holding pattern. They're going to most likely have an unintended bye week now. And I guess setting up the game, especially both teams are considered playoff contenders. So now what happens, we get to the end of the season and both teams need to play that game, but you can't push back. So you're going to have to push back the playoffs again so they can play at the end of the season. What's going to happen? These are all questions that will be answered sometime in the near future, and we'll see how the NFL reacts. Definitely not a good thing to happen. I think we all expected something like this to happen, but this is one of those obstacles that the NFL is going to have to face, especially this year.
Just the reality in the sports world at the moment. So.
I think, it's reality just in general for everybody. We're all living a different type of life, especially with coronavirus. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That wraps up our NFL coverage. We were going to step into the baseball. We don't really cover baseball all that much. I think, especially considering that it was an abbreviated season. So we're not having a full, major league season, but we're in full swing with the playoffs. And the first round is already most of the first round matchups are completed. I think there's only one first round matchup that hasn't finished. But just going through a couple of the results. So we had the number 1 seed Tampa Bay Rays beat the Toronto Blue Jays 2-0. Basically, pitching dominated the Blue Jays both games.
I have a question though. Isn't this the first time in the MLB where it's only 2 games to
win
the series?
So this right? is the first year of the new playoff format.
Wait,
now.
What?
Yeah, now we have 8 teams in each league that make the playoffs now. So instead of the 6. There was also the wild card rounds as well. It was a little complicated, but remember, you had the wild card playing game, and then you had 4 teams. So now it's expanded playoffs. So instead of just 4 teams plus instead of 3 teams plus the playoff. The wild card play-in game, which was 5 teams. Now we expanded to 8 teams in each league. So it's new. Do I agree with it? I think baseball this year is okay, considering that we only had a 60-game season. But in the future, I don't want to see more baseball, especially in the playoffs, because it's already a lot of games. There's a reason why baseball kind of stuck to limited amount of playoff teams. Yeah, and it shows also like you have to play well in the regular season to make it in the playoffs. So I think this year is fine. Now for the other years that they have a full season, we can be judged accordingly. But I think as of right now, considering the implications of coronavirus around the world, I think this is a good thing. I think expanded playoffs is a good thing.
I think they're just rushing it too much for the MLB, because I just feel like winning 2 games to advance to the next round is too little. I think it should be 3 games.
It is tough. I will say it is tough to try to win. If for any team, just winning 2 games, because it's easy in baseball. It's easy to lose 2 games.
Very easy.
It's very easy to lose 2 games, so it's a little tough. But definitely the cream rise to the crop in this regard, because we had Tampa winning 2 games to nothing. We had the Oakland Athletics resurgent year. They won 2-1 against the 7th seed Chicago White Sox. Then we had Minnesota versus Houston. Houston actually upset the Twins, but Houston we can all say
cheaters.
Houston we can all say is the better team overall. They won 2-0. My beloved Yankees, not a great season, especially with an abbreviated schedule, but they beat the Cleveland Indians 2-0. Cleveland Indians were the 4 seed, the Yankees were the 5 seed. They won 2-0, and the Yankees hitting seems to be back in full swing. They scored 22 runs in 2 games. So
get ready for the next round.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. Well, where it's going to lead to for the Yankees. In the National League, we had the Dodgers sweep the Brewers in 2 games. Again, pitching dominated the Brewers. We had Atlanta Braves first playoff win, series win in like 19 years, I believe. They made the playoffs multiple times, but they lost in the first round. So it's their first win in almost 20 years. First playoff series win in 20 years. They beat the Cincinnati Reds 2-0, 2 games to nothing. The Cubs actually lose to Miami Marlins. Yep. The Miami Marlins being a surprise playoff contender, especially this year, playing very well, and they swept the Chicago Cubs, who started off the year super hot, and they couldn't hit off the Marlins. They scored only 1 run in 2 games. They got shut out in the game 2. Marlins win 2-0. They move on. We had the Padres versus St. Louis Cardinals. This is the only series that hasn't been completed yet. They split both games, and they're actually playing tonight.
Yep, Padres are up 1-0.
There you go. So
5th inning.
Very interesting to see a resurgent San Diego team, especially with Fernando Tatis Jr.
My guy.
He's a beast, just like his dad was. It's Manny Machado too. Signed that big contract with San Diego years ago, and now he's in the playoffs. So there you go.
Predictions for the next.
So yeah, I'm gonna give the divisional series. You guys give me your predictions. Okay, we have Tampa versus New York.
Let's go, baby.
Tampa whooped our asses this year in the season series, but we'll see how it goes.
Is it the same 2 games to advance?
No. It's so you have to win 3. So
5-game series.
Yeah, best out of 5. It's best out of 5.
Let's go, baby.
Let's go. I think it gives you a little bit more leeway. So we have the Yankees, Tampa Bay. Who do you guys have?
Yankees, baby.
Yankees, because I'm a Yankees fan. Let's go.
What kind of question is that?
I just hope that the playoff Yankees show up and not regular season Yankees show
Bronx
up.
Bombers, baby.
We have the Oakland A's versus the Houston Astros.
Fuck the Astros.
Fuck the Astros.
Athletics all day.
The Astros, the AL champions, are facing a resurgent Oakland A's team.
Even though I want the Astros to win, just so the Yankees can play them in the next round.
But so just in your, who do you think wins this series?
It's tough. Either team, because I want the Yankees to beat them the next round. So whoever wins that one, it's all good to me.
I think Oakland wins the series in 5.
Let's go.
What about you, Raul?
Oakland.
Oakland. Okay, all right, cool. Then in the National League, we have Los Angeles Dodgers versus the winner of the Padres Cardinals.
So we'll wait on
we
that.
We can't give a prediction, but I think regardless, I think the Dodgers win. I think the Dodgers are just a great team. Now, when they get to the World Series, we'll see what happens because they seem to choke. But I think Dodgers win regardless of who comes up out of the winner. What about you, Kid?
I can't really decide if I don't know who they're facing next round. So
okay, all right, that's fair.
We'll
that's
save
fair.
that for the next episode.
Now, this is going to be actually a really interesting series. We have the Atlanta Braves versus the Miami Marlins. Both NL East teams very familiar with one another. This is going to be an interesting series. They're both kind of rebuilding teams that kind of found their groove a lot earlier than they expected. Even though Atlanta didn't play too bad the past couple of years. I have the Braves winning this series. I think that Miami has been a great story, and I think Miami is definitely surprising, and especially their pitching has been so good, this year. Just want to know what your thoughts are going to be. Who do you think is going to win?
The Braves.
Take the Braves. Fuck it.
I think the Braves win too. Miami, great season, unexpected playoff appearance, and I think that they're just gonna, the clock is gonna run out of them. So hey guys, who do you think is gonna make the World Series this year?
The Yanks.
Yankees.
Of course, the Yankees.
The Yanks.
We're Yankee fans.
Still pretty early.
I mean, it's still pretty early, and we're facing probably our toughest opponent, especially during the regular season, in the Tampa Bay Rays. But I think it's gonna be New York versus LA in a coronavirus World Series. What about you?
You said New York. Same. LA's been a dominating team in the National League for a couple years now, so you can't doubt that they'll make it to the World Series.
What about you, Raul?
What was the question again?
Who do you think makes it to the World Series?
The Yanks
And
Dodgers.
Dodgers. You can take the Dodgers.
I like how you're asking me. You're like, and Dodgers?
Dodgers. You know what, guys?
Dodgers. The Dodgers.
Dodgers. You know what it is, guys? I don't watch that much baseball. You guys are usually the baseball heads here.
Yeah, I haven't been watching so much because I think like it does feel different watching baseball when there's no fans. So I haven't been involved, but I've been watching a little bit of the playoffs. I think I'm gonna be a little bit more invested if the Yankees advance. But I think now is when I'm gonna start investing because I kind of forgot that they did an expanded playoff for this year. So now, I think I'm going to be a little bit more invested, especially with the Yankees involved.
Yeah, you know what it is, guys, too? When there's good basketball on, football, and occasionally on the weekends, boxing, it's hard to
keep up
multitask
everything.
and keep up.
And especially us being like primarily a boxing podcast, although we do cover all sports, like it is tough, especially with all the little fights as well. Just even covering little fights, like we have to make a decision of whether we should discuss certain fights or not. Of course, the most important that move the needle we'll cover, but that's it.
But don't get me wrong, I'm loving this though because I know there's gonna come to a point where there's nothing on, and I'm gonna tell myself, what the fuck?
You want to know something crazy? The NBA finals just started, and the beginning of the season would have started at the same time. So that's crazy, right? And hey, there was one thing I also wanted to bring up. I wanted to bring up UFC. We don't normally cover UFC, but I was watching the Israel Adesanya versus the Paulo Costa fight, and they were really building this up. UFC, I think 243 as one of the best fights of the year. Cannot miss, blink and someone's going to get knocked out. And in a way it was, huh?
Pay-per-view?
Pay-per-view, yeah.
Fight Island, whatever they're
fighting. They were fighting in Fight Island in the Emirates. So, but just goes to show you, from watching that fight, Israel Adesanya is a surgeon in the octagon.
He's a beast.
And Paulo Costa is that's
a jacked up dude, right?
That's a scary motherfucker. Even though a good-looking, ripped guy, that's a scary motherfucker.
He looks like a boss, a final boss in like a Final Fantasy or something.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like he had a lot of hype going into this fight. And they had a lot of bad blood as well. They were going back and forth. on social media, on television.
But what's up with? Well, get to the winner of it, and then I'll tell you.
Well, just breaking down the
Yeah,
fight,
yeah.
I would. Adesanya is a surgeon. He started off with leg kicks to Paulo Costa's left leg, and literally 30 seconds of the fight, Costa's leg started marking up.
What?
I think it made Costa a little bit more apprehensive because he's that type of guy who just come in there and he wants to like just body you. But I think Israel Adesanya, just like with every other opponent, his precision with his hands and his legs, his striking is excellent, and he's super long, so he can keep you at bay. But he has the power to knock you out, which what happened in the second round. He caught Costa with a hook as he was coming in as Costa was coming inside blind. He caught him with a hook to the temple, dropped Costa, and just applied those finishing touches to a spectacular knockout.
It's funny to see the physical comparisons between both fighters, right?
Yeah, Izzy is more of like a long,
lengthy,
athletic
yeah.
build, and Costa is just
He's built kind of like a Plexico Burris, a wide receiver.
yeah, like
type body.
long, very long,
Yeah.
long legs, long,
Athletic.
of kickboxing
Yeah.
background.
And the other one, he's equivalent to like
He's
a
like
lineman.
Well, his nickname is the Eraser because
The
he
Eraser.
can knock you the fuck out.
Shit.
And he's definitely no joke whatsoever. But Adesanya, he just showed how on the pound for pound list how good he is, and belongs to be right up there.
I'm a huge fan of Don't Judge a Book by Its Cover, and somebody like me that doesn't really know much of UFC, I would look at both of them and say, you know what, I'm going with the dude that looks like he's on roids. Jacked up guy.
But in the fight, Adesanya just broke him down from the legs up. I think once he started applying
It
pressure.
makes sense. I mean, if somebody has a huge upper body, why not try to go for the legs?
Yeah, and it definitely made Costa very apprehensive to come inside. He didn't fight a Paulo Costa fight, and I think, and the times that he did come in, Adesanya just had jabs for him. He sliced his eyebrow open with a nice shin kick that Costa shook off, but you can tell he was affected by it.
Shit.
And then he made the mistake of going inside blind, getting caught with the hook, and just dropping. And it was just one of those type of fights where the one fighter looked so much better than the other fighter, despite going into the fight how everyone was expecting a close fight.
And what's up with that? Like, as soon after he knocked him down, what's up with that? Like little in the moment celebration.
Oh, yeah, well,
before the dance, it looked like he kind of dry humped him. No,
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a little thing, like a little after win, like thing celebration.
It reminds me a little bit of how Adrian Broner did to Marcus Maidana.
Yeah, but at least Adesanya waited to after knocking the guy out, right?
Yeah,
Instead of in mid fight,
exactly.
while he's getting
but
his ass kicked.
That's the only two times I've seen it in comeback or like fighting sport where I seen somebody hump another dude, which I thought was a little weird. But hey, all power to you, man. We're flex, but hey, flex, homie, if you want that.
True that, guys. Again, it's that time of the podcast for Mas Puta List.
Oh, you forgot about the NBA, bro.
Oh my God! I'm gonna have to edit that.
Oh,
No, you know what? Leave
edit.
that in. That's what.
Leave that bitch in, ho.
But anyways, all right. Moving on to our next topic, the NBA Finals. Listen,
Lakers convincingly taking Game 1 and taking over the Heat. And just embarrassing the Heat for this first game.
I was watching the fight
Loving it.
intermittently. So KJ, explain to me what happened. Explain the flow. Explain what happened during that game.
Well, the first quarter, went to the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler, Adebayo, and all these guys.
Now, who you said earlier is now out now, right?
He's indefinitely out for Game 2, as well as Goran Dragic.
But Dragic is out for the whole series, right?
From what I saw, yes, he's out for the series with
shit.
a plantar tear. I'm sorry, on the left foot, so he's out indefinitely. Adebayo right now, he's suffering neck pain, lack of mobility around his left shoulder. And he remains hopeful for Game 3. So, but overall, Game 1 went to the Lakers. Lakers took over and did what they were supposed to. LeBron James, AD taking over as they're supposed to. So
where would you say that LA kind of like took the control? What point of the game did you feel?
By the second quarter, it was
they got into a groove
they got into a groove. It just Miami defensively couldn't handle the bigs of the Lakers, you know.
And that was something we were discussing too, right? The bigs of the Lakers.
Yeah, that's something that we all mutually agree that, you know, as well as Bam Adebayo is, and how well they did against the Celtics in that Eastern Conference. Me and KJ, and something I talked to before the series started with my cousin, is that the Lakers, they could easily go big. And KJ, if you could add on to what I was gonna say.
Yeah, easily could go big with JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard, and AD at the front court. I mean, they just out rebounded Miami. They made Miami look like a junior high school team. Just how big they were playing. It was over by the second quarter. Miami came back, had a comeback. A short comeback in the fourth quarter with Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, who
he gave him a spark. They gave him a spark. Kendrick Nunn gave them the Heat a spark. As soon as Dragic, of course, unfortunately when he went out, he stepped in to fill in his role, and I guess he picked up from what he was in regular season.
For sure.
But yeah, you know, it looks like they're a little beat up, right, KJ?
Yeah, beat up, man.
And I don't want to say morale because, you know, we got game 2 going on now as we speak.
Yep, as of right now.
But, you know, the Lakers, surprisingly enough, they shot the ball well compared to how they usually shoot, even throughout the whole regular season.
Series.
Yeah, you have Danny Green making his threes.
Rondo, Kuzma.
It's like
Caruso.
I guess in a way it's good that they're doing it now, but like as a Heat fan, like, yo, what the fuck? Like,
it just looks like the Lakers, in every aspect of their bench and just the whole team in general, it's just overpowering for any other team in the league.
And also another good thing to look out for and also notice. Prior to their downfall, the Heat were doing very well. They were up by like 12 at some point, the highest. And they were dishing out the ball to each other like they were doing prior to this series with the Celtics. They were playing just where they left off. But it just so happened that the rotation and plus
terrible rotation
and something we agreed on is the Heat's coach.
Yeah, Eric Spoelstra, just watching the game overall is just terrible with his rotations. Not putting enough big men that they have on the bench to play up against Dwight Howard and AD. You know, Miles Leonard, who's on the roster, missing in the rotations and everything like that. So just mismatches all over the board for the Heat. And then you know who I got. I got LeBron James, the greatest basketball player in the world, winning his fourth finals and maybe winning a Finals MVP if AD doesn't take that away from him. So you know how that goes. Do you think
that the injuries to the Heat are too much for the Heat to overcome and beat the Lakers? Is that what you
for sure? 1,000%.
Do you think even with those players, do you think that the Heat would have beaten, or do you still take the Lakers? If Dragic and Adebayo were gonna play this whole series, do you feel?
I feel like it would have been a different ball game.
Do you think so? Do you think the Heat would win, or do you think still the Lakers would win?
You asking me if I think the Heat would win?
Let me ask Raul.
Ask Raul.
Right now with the injuries,
talk to unbiased mind over here, please.
So without the injuries, with the injuries, you have the Lakers winning.
Now with the injuries, I look very slim for the Heat too.
Gotcha. Do you think if Adebayo and Dragic were still playing?
Yeah, of course.
Do you think the Heat would win, or it would be a closer series?
A closer series. I had the Heat prior to game 1, them winning it. Mm-hmm. Do I still have the Heat winning them? Without the injuries, yeah, I would say the Heat will definitely have a good shot. With the injuries now.
Tough.
Nah,
I think
they're beat up physically, mentally. I don't know how well. Obviously, they're professional athletes, but this has to really take a toll on the locker room.
Yeah. I think we're gonna see now if Jimmy Butler can be that can he's already like reached maximum level. Now can he get to Super Saiyan level? Like can he bring his team back? Because now
Super Saiyan God.
Not against LeBron.
I mean,
he's not. That's LeBron's kryptonite.
I mean, look. One thing is for sure, guys. If you have key players out, they just need more from their regular starters. Yeah. They all need to step up.
Guys, you're talking about LeBron, who's at his 10th finals appearance.
Well, one thing I will say is that the Heat need to take advantage of their depth. And if they're going to have any chance of beating the Lakers, they're going to need Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero to both go off. Not one or the other. They need both of them to go off 3-point. Both of them need to hit at least 5 3-pointers.
Which they were missing plenty of it game one. Horrible.
Yeah. So that's the one thing about relying on 3-pointers, so that you can easily, on an off night, you can easily be dismantled, especially if your 3-point shooting isn't going down. I think both Hero and Duncan are going to have to each drop 20 points and at least hit like each 5 3-pointers each game for the Heat to have a chance. I think Jimmy Butler is going to be Jimmy Butler and do his thing. Do I think he can reach a Super Saiyan type level? I don't know.
It's not happening.
We don't know. We don't know. I think that Miami is gonna have to start taking advantage of their bench. Because the Lakers have a very unreliable bench. So I think they're going to have to wear out their starting five and kind of like whenever LeBron or AD is out of the game, they're going to have to start picking it up. Like they definitely need to outscore the Lakers when either of them is on the bench. Like they have to.
Talking about taking advantage, the Lakers are going to take advantage of the lack of big men in the Heat.
Yeah.
Especially Adebayo being out, they're going to have – I wouldn't be surprised at some point of game 2 they have rotating or have everybody in the same floor. They'll have AD, Joel McGee, and Dwight Howard just for the fun of it and just to see how the outcome plays.
Well, I'll tell you what. This is a couple years removed from it, but hey, they could have used Hassan Whiteside a little bit. the all-star Hassan Whiteside, but that's already years ago. But anyways, guys, it's that time of the podcast.
Time of the pod.
Now is the time officially now. We have our Mas Puta list and our goats of the week.
Shout out to my uncle George Lopez.
That's it. So we're gonna start off with our Mas Puta list. KJ, who's on your Mas Puta list?
So yeah, my Mas Puta of the week, unfortunately, is gonna be Lamar Jackson. How much talent he composes as a quarterback, but just a terrible going against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Definitely a missed opportunity to
huge missed opportunity just to show the world and
that he can be on Mahomes' level.
Exactly. So QB rating of 41. He was sacked 4 times.
I think the yards per attempt was really the
terrible. 3.5 yards per passing attempt. He only had 97 passing yards for the whole game. So if you want to be elite in this league, you gotta during those big games, especially against big players.
I think we were all gotta
turn up,
and we were all a little bit of disappointed. Would you say you were disappointed in the matchup? Like you thought it was gonna be like a shootout, right?
Oh,
because I think I felt that way as well.
For sure. It just showed Patrick Mahomes is no freaking joke in this league. So but yeah, my Mas Puta, Lamar Jackson, and I expect him next week to come back to his MVP status in every game post this Kansas City matchup, but I expect him to do bigger and better things.
All right, no doubt. What about you, Raul? Who's on your Mas Puta list?
So I don't want to give this to a retired boxer, but if a retired boxer is gonna be talking all this shit like he is active, then you're gonna get this. And I'm talking about Floyd Mayweather. Obviously, I would have gave Floyd Mayweather Mas Puta of the week plenty of times before this, but I'll give this to him now because, listen, he had an interview not too long ago with Shannon Sharp, and basically, Shannon Sharp gave him some crazy questions, and obviously, as Floyd Mayweather is with his fashion of money weather responses, he obviously responded with, I want to say, very ignorant answers. One of the questions and answers that stood out the most is, yes, I'm still the face of boxing. stating, you know what, nobody does more money than me. Without me, boxing is nothing, yada yada, and all ignorance. Buddy, you're retired. Get on your high horse, ride into the sunset, and don't look back. But his problem
Unless
is...
you're going to fight somebody who's a real boxer.
But his problem is...
Shots.
He's looking back. Don't look back. You're retired, man. And that's what Kyle said. And if you're going to look back, that means you're going to fight somebody. Are you going to fight somebody? No. If you are, it's probably going to be against a YouTube star, which we all know is for money and maybe for YouTube ratings. But
of course,
at this point, bro, obviously you're retired. You're not a face of boxing. Let the younglings, especially, bro, you got a promotion company. You have young upcoming stars, quote unquote, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe add some of that hype to one of them. Let them be the face of boxing if you want to be a good promoter. Your time is already done. Yes, don't get me wrong. With all due respect, you've been the best in your prime, in your moment. And this is coming from somebody that was not a supporter. But I show respect where it's due. Aside from that, look out for your companies, your promotion, but I don't know, maybe be a little bit more humble with your answers.
I mean, yeah. I remember he said something in the interview like, oh, how many champions has Rocky Marciano beat compared to me? I'm like,
tired of hearing that.
This is how you, for real boxing fans, Rocky Marciano fought in a heavyweight division, so there is nothing above that. First of all, number two, he fought in an era where there wasn't a bunch of sanctioning bodies with multiple belts. So you had one champion for each division, and we were at a time where the divisions, there was only X amount of divisions. They broke. You only had flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight.
Catch weights,
light heavyweight, and heavyweight. So those were the only kind of weights that they had back then. So
and how many rounds?
Well, not catch weights, but there was no. Remember, they broke down they added more weight classes after that.
And how many rounds did these fights
15
go?
rounds.
Exactly.
So there's definitely a disconnect in terms of how boxing was now and then in Floyd Mayweather's mind. So that there's definitely a disconnect there. So it goes to show you a lot of how desperate he needs the spotlight to have the spotlight. Everyone knows that he's one of the greatest boxers of all time, but it's not enough for him.
Yeah.
It's not enough for him.
And look, like I said, I'm not discrediting him with his achievements. All respect to that, right? Because he's done it all. But, buddy, you're still relevant. You don't have to be talking all this shit. You know what I mean? If anything, this is probably going to give people a bad taste, worse than some already have of you. But, come on, get over yourself, buddy.
Yeah, we all know that Floyd Mayweather doesn't make the best decisions.
He just talks a lot of shit. I mean, I love Mayweather. I think he's one of the greatest fighters of all time, but he just talks a lot of shit.
Yeah, man.
He talks a lot of shit.
You're not fighting, man.
Especially the way he was talking shit to Pacquiao.
Well, at least Pacquiao's fighting active boxers half his age.
Yeah, and not half his age, but like much younger, like decades younger.
I mean, he's 40, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's like,
I mean, he's probably sparring kids half his age.
Yeah. So hey, listen, if you're gonna have respect for the sport, and listen, we already went through a Conor McGregor thing, but at least Conor McGregor was a fighter in some regard. If you go and fight Logan Paul, it just shows you that it's about the money, and you've never had respect for the sport of boxing. Yeah. So I mean, there you go.
I feel like he's scared to fight bigger competition at times.
I don't think he's scared, but I just don't think he wants to. I think he's scared to lose his at the end of the day, because that's all he really holds on to right now. Like, I never lost. I'm the greatest. Yeah, that's his thing. That goes to show you why his last two fights, Andre Berto, who is no longer the Andre Berto. Well, that one, even when they fought, it wasn't the Andre Berto that was in his prime. And then Conor McGregor, and now rumors of him fighting Logan Paul just goes to show you what priorities he has in terms of boxing legacy, and just the sport of boxing. But talking about disrespect for the sport of boxing, the person, the representative for my mas puta list is actually the IBF, sanctioning body in boxing. the IBF is known to, out of all the divisions, better when it comes to assigning champions. They don't have multiple champions like the WBA has, or they don't have these weird franchise designations like the WBC has. But the IBF has been a little bit more consistent in terms of assigning champions. However, the reason why they're on my mas puta list is because how do you make a completely unknown, I don't even know his first name, and I don't need to know his first name, but Kong Song, the mandatory for a fighter like Josh Taylor, who no one I would in the right mind would have him in a top 20 of the best 140 pounders, maybe not even the top 30, and you make him a mandatory. This is ridiculous. This is the things in boxing that can dissuade potential fans. How are you going to make a mandatory championship fight against someone who really hasn't really earned it? Yeah, he has a knockout streak, and yeah, he has an undefeated record, but he's fighting nobody. He's fought nobody, and now he's the mandatory for Josh Taylor's championship belts. No. And even Bob Arum, who, he's himself said some wrong things and done some wrong things, just like anybody in boxing. But even he was like, this is bullshit. I'm the one having to pay to set up this fight and set up the event and all that stuff. And then just because the guy is this random guy is a mandatory, what kind of bullshit mandatories are these? And boxing and a lot of these sanctioning bodies have been notorious for stripping champions undeservedly because they haven't fought some random mandatory in order to keep the belt. And especially if you're not a known name, any sanctioning body will strip you at the moment you don't do what they want to do. Especially if you're not. If they could do it to Canelo, which they stripped him and made him a franchise champion, whatever the fuck that still means. And they did it to Lomachenko, which some people won't say that is a bad thing, but it's still like you're just taking the way the championship to give it to somebody else so you can collect on sanctioning fees, only to make this one guy your franchise champion, which doesn't really mean anything other than he's actually your real champion, and you're just making the belt available so you can collect more sanctioning fees. So the IBF now the WBC hasn't done that, but the IBF hasn't done. But the fact that they're making such weak mandatory challengers they're selecting such weak competition for mandatory challengers. It goes to show you how ridiculous it is. And hey, Josh Taylor knocks him out in the first round. So now we have a undeserved challenger who gets knocked out in the first round and against a guy who just trying to keep warm for his next big fight, right? So there you go. The IBF, that's my mas puta. Although I was close to the Atlanta Falcons was my close second place for my mas puta. The Atlanta Falcons
not a bad one either, man. Not a bad one. But man, the way you described the, I guess the format and how, these sanctions companies for these belts are and making the way they work, it kind of makes it sound and hear and see like. It's a wrestling.
It shouldn't be too
company,
hard considering that
a wrestling bell status.
Raul, it shouldn't be too hard considering your familiarity with the Suleimans for the WBC. Well, considering with the stuff that they've done over the past couple of years.
But you know what? The WBC for me personally, it has like a very soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, I mean the Mexican,
even as a kid, it's one of those belts that stood out the most.
Yeah.
When I think about it and I see it, I look at royalty. I look at like high status, like even like a king having that belt. So I know and I see why. With all this like franchise and being very biased with their favorite male cow champions, but it still for me personally still hold value.
Yeah, but I mean, completely a completely different sport and different format in terms of promotional. But at least with the UFC, you know who's the champion, and if they're not the champion, or if they're
except for that BMF.
Oh yeah, that was ridiculous too. But I mean, all right, but at least with the UFC, hey, they only assign interim champions for specific reasons, not because, oh yeah, he's just to give out a belt, right? They give out interim championships for specific reasons, which at least we understand. And I wish boxing kind of would rein it in with these fucking titles, or at least like the U.S. like John McCain once tried to do, make a unified national boxing commission. That would be nice.
That would be great.
Yeah, but there's politics, not only domestic politics, but also international politics.
So yeah, we all know boxing. It's not as simple as people think it is. There's so much that goes into it, let alone the amount of money that boxing is in. So
it could be confusing sometimes. Like when I hear you guys talk about the sanctions, the title belts.
Don't worry, even for
other
people,
things, it's crazy.
Even for boxing insiders, it's confusing. So don't worry, kid. You're not the only one.
Sometimes I'm like, huh, ARF? I'm like, what? I get confused.
You gotta be a boxing wizard to really, really know your shit.
Please, even like journalists like Dan Raphael, they'll like scratch their head with some of the decisions some of these sanctioning bodies make. But anyways, hey, my Masputa, IBF, the IBF, International Boxing Federation.
That shit took forever.
Our goats of the week. We're gonna run through our goats of the week
real quick.
KJ, why don't you start it off?
Oh, Kyle, you're gonna love this because my goat of the week, man. Who took my Masputa of the week previous episode.
So they're interchange. So Anthony Davis is interchangeable at this point.
At the end of the day, it's kind of my opinion. So if I feel that way that week, and I change up. So as I'm currently watching Game 2 of the Lakers and the Heat, my goat of the week goes to Anthony Davis. Anthony, does he even have a nickname, guys? He doesn't have a nickname.
The Pelican? Oh, no, not anymore.
The Masputa of the week?
The Brow.
Oh, good one. Oh, the Brow. There you go. Anthony the Brow Davis.
The Brow.
Dominating the boards like I expect him to. It's my go to the week. Scoring 34 points, 9 clutch rebounds, 5 assists, and eventually, leading the Lakers game 1 win convincingly.
KJ, can you tell the people listening to while we're recording in the moment what's the score?
I'm not even gonna say nothing, Raul, because it's not over yet.
I'll say it's 40 Lakers, 27 Miami. Before we continue on to Kyle's and my go to the week, I have a pretty curious and interesting question now. Seeing the score now, obviously, there's 2 more quarters to go. It's just the first half of the game, second quarter. But do you think the Lakers could possibly, with the injuries and everything going on with the Heat, sweep the Heat?
I think they're taking. I think
it's
they're
possible. I hope not.
Because listen, game 2, I really expected the Heat to start the game all out, guns blazing. But seeing the score now, and if they lose, I don't know how their morale and their momentum is gonna be after this.
Kyle, you think Miami's taking game 2 while they're losing at the moment?
It's fucked up to give them I have the Lakers now with the injuries, probably Lakers in 6.
I would like to give a shout out to my cousin Brandon. I'm sorry, Brandon, for the Heat. I had something with the Heat going on there and supporting, but I'm sorry, Brandon.
Anyways, moving on.
Go to the week, guys.
Raul, who's your go to the week?
I will go for Jermall Charlo.
Okay, all right.
His very impressive win against Derevchenko. The way he started out the fight, the way he ended the fight, the way he welcomed in the pressure at one point with Derevchenko just trying to work himself into the inside pocket. All these things and what we all saw that night just really made us journalists very confident in saying, you know what? I would like to see him fight against Daniel Jacobs, against Triple G, against Billy Joe Sanders, against the money cow right now, Canelo. It's going to set up for interesting fights the way he fought. This is what we want to see. 2 styles of boxing that's going to give the fans what they want. And he proved that night.
Yeah.
I'm confident enough now. I'm a supporter. Prior to this fight, we all kind of agree with Kyle. We had our doubts, we had our questions, but no, he answered everything for us that night.
So Kyle, what was it? Was he poised? Like you tell me, is the word that was
Composed.
Composed, because
Composed.
every time Derenchenko was very aggressive
Calm.
with him,
He
elbowing Jermall. Jermall just looked poised to me. Like he looked like, you know what, this guy's not gonna do much to me.
At this, whenever Derenchenko would take control of a certain round, and even win the round, I think what you saw was Charlo being a little bit more patient. Not so much going for the knockout, but in that fight against Korobov, he definitely was like always like going more for the knockout than to box. And I think that his that piston like jab, he kind of kept him at bay and didn't worry so much about when he lost a round. More so the overall, I have to win this fight. And especially, when you win that big in the early rounds, I think, you can get complacent too. When you are winning the early rounds that well, you can get complacent towards the middle and championship rounds. And I think even though Derenchenko was winning a majority of those middle rounds, you saw Charlo never kind of like get a little bit too far out of his game plan. There was times that he could have fought better in those rounds, but for the most part, he fought a very composed fight, much like Jacobs and Triple G kind of like had to do, except much not as successfully as Charlo did it against Derenchenko, and that shows a lot. The fact that he won convincingly, maybe not like looking like a superstar per se, but the fact that he won convincingly against a fighter who gave Triple G and Danny Jacobs, middleweights who some people would consider better than Charlo, basically did what he had to do much better than Triple G and Jacobs, and that says a lot about his growth as a fighter.
Yeah, this was a test for a lot of people. He passed the test. Most people would agree that Triple G fought Derenchenko. Like, their fight was a little off, was different. And they compare that fight with this fight that we're speaking of. And obviously, we're all seeing that Jermall kind of had the better end of this fight.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, he's my goat of the week. I'm looking forward to what's next for him. He made me a fan of Lines Only. And Kyle, who's your goat of the week?
Well, on the flip side, his twin brother, Jermell, is my goat of the week. Again, like I said, both brothers were very impressive this weekend. I believe Jermell was my goat of the week, simply because he now owns 3 of the 4 major titles at junior middleweight, and considering his issues with Tony Harrison and controversially losing the first fight, and then arguably losing the second fight up until his knockout of Tony Harrison, there were a lot of questions about both Charlo brothers, and with Jermell, a lot of people were wondering like, hey, is he gonna fight any of the other bigger names at 154? Listen, he knocked out Julian J. Rock Williams. He's knocked out Erickson Lubin. And although he has some, for the most part, he doesn't really have any blips on his resume. I mean, yeah, you can argue the Tony Harrison fights that he didn't fight particularly well or much to the height of his abilities, but he has shown a lot, especially in this Jeison Rosario fight. Jeison Rosario knocked out Julian Williams, who beat Jared Hurd to become a unified champion. So now you have Charlo as the unified champion, along with Patrick Teixeira owning the WBO title. I give my goat of the week to Jermell Charlo, arguably the best junior middleweight in boxing, impressively knocking out game Dominican fighter Jeison Rosario with a body shot with a jab, which you almost never see a jab to the body knocking out somebody, but basically paralyzing Jeison Rosario. So my goat of the week, Jermell Charlo, arguably the best junior middleweight in the division. Episode 10.
In the books.
In the books and the raps.
Yeah, so I just want to thank you guys for listening, staying with us through 10 episodes.
Yeah.
I think we're all excited about kind of like putting our foot down and like forging ahead with this podcast. At a point we were always like second guessing ourselves of when we should start it, when we should do it, and to know that we are 10 episodes in, I think it says a lot about just not about our like individually, but as a collective, how we are. We see each other as brothers, and although me and my brother are actual brothers, Raul is always going to be a brother regardless of blood. We are three brothers in a room doing something that we love, which is talking about sports, talking about boxing, and being with each other. 10 episodes in, it's a testament to, I think, how we feel about each other. We are, I love my brother. I will always love my brother. I love Raul because he's basically my brother no matter what, even though we may not have the same mom and dad. His parents are basically like an aunt and uncle to me. So, and to be 10 episodes in, still trying to work on our podcast, work on our craft. Again, it's a testament to the brotherhood that me, KJ, and Raul have.
Yeah. That was a speech right there. But everything Kyle said is accurate. These are my only brothers that I know since I was a kid. I have no brothers, but these are my only two brothers that I could say that through thin and thick, they'll be there for the long haul. And this podcast that we originally had vision maybe a year, we decided, you know what, fuck it, we're not gonna let Corona stop it.
Yeah, I think we had to push each other like all at the same time.
Yeah. When we said, fuck Corona, we're gonna do this safely, and we're just gonna get better, guys. We're gonna get guests on. We're gonna improve every aspect of it. Equipment. We're soon gonna have video. We're gonna have everything in the books, and it's all gonna be excited for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, KJ?
Man, I just want to say I appreciate you guys. I'm looking forward to further episodes and more episodes to our Honey Bunches of Goats podcast. We're going to continue to keep pushing forward. And like you guys said, we'll have more video, more audio. We're trying to keep this podcast a lot more fun and just more entertaining for you guys. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And guys, where can we follow our podcast page?
Honey Bunches of Goats NYC on Instagram.
Just anybody on YouTube, just YouTube Honey Bunches of Goats. Tune into our channel. We upload episodes every week. We're gonna start being a little bit more consistent with uploading earlier than we have been in the past couple of weeks. But just expect great content. Just us just shooting the shit. 3 boys from Queens, just having fun talking about sports and boxing.
Hell yeah.
Episode 10. We out.
Deuces.
Cheers. Guys. Check you later.
You got knocked